There comes a moment in many people's lives when they realize they were loving someone far more deeply than they were being loved in return. It is one of the most painful truths a heart can face, because love makes people hopeful. Even when the signs are clear, even when the silence becomes louder than the conversations, a person in love still holds on to small moments and tiny promises. They keep believing that maybe one day things will change. Maybe one day the person they love will finally understand their value. A lot of people do not fall in love with reality. They fall in love with hope. Hope is dangerous sometimes, because it convinces the heart to stay in places where the soul is slowly breaking. There was a boy once who truly loved a girl with complete honesty. He was not perfect, but his intentions were clean. Every morning he would wake up thinking about her. He would ignore his own stress just to make her smile. If she was upset, his entire mood changed. If she needed attention, he would leave everything else behind. He thought this was what love meant: sacrificing, adjusting, waiting, forgiving again and again. At first, the relationship felt beautiful. Long conversations, late-night calls, promises about the future, the kind of connection that makes someone believe they finally found their person. But slowly, things started changing. Her replies became colder, her effort disappeared. The same person who once wanted to talk all night suddenly acted busy all the time, yet whenever he tried to leave, she would pull him back with sweet words and emotional promises. And that is how emotional attachment traps people. Sometimes, a person does not stay because they are happy. They stay because they are emotionally addicted to the memories, the hope, and the fear of losing someone they once loved deeply. The heart keeps remembering the old version of the person, even when the present version is causing pain. The boy started losing himself without realizing it. He became emotionally exhausted. He would wait for messages for hours. He would overthink small changes in behavior. One dry reply could ruin his entire day. He stopped focusing on himself because his happiness became completely connected to her mood and attention. The saddest part is that many people experience this silently. They smile in front of others, while carrying emotional pain inside their chest every single day. They keep defending the person who hurts them because love makes them loyal even to their own suffering. One night, after another argument, the girl told him something that completely shattered him. She said, "You care too much." Those words stayed in his mind for weeks. How strange is this world sometimes. A loyal heart is treated like a burden. Genuine effort becomes too much. Deep love becomes clingy. Meanwhile, people who give the bare minimum are often valued more because they appear emotionally unavailable. But pain has a way of teaching lessons that comfort never can. After weeks of emotional distance and sleepless nights, the boy finally understood something important. Love should not feel like constantly begging for reassurance. It should not feel like chasing someone who keeps walking away emotionally. Real love does not confuse you every day. It does not make you question your worth every night before sleeping. For the first time, he stopped blaming himself for loving deeply. Instead, he started asking a different question. Why am I trying so hard to be enough for someone who barely tries for me? That question changed his life. Healing did not happen overnight. Some days, he missed her badly. Some nights he reread old conversations and wondered if things could have been different. Emotional attachment is not easy to break because the heart becomes connected not only to a person, but also to routines, memories, dreams and future plans that never happened. But slowly, he started returning to himself. He spent more time with family. He focused on work. He started sleeping peacefully again. The anxiety became less heavy. He no longer checked his phone every minute waiting for someone who only remembered him when it was convenient. And with time, he realized something beautiful: the love he was desperately trying to receive from someone else already existed inside him. That is the lesson heartbreak teaches many people. Sometimes losing the wrong person helps someone find themselves again. People often think heartbreak only destroys a person, but sometimes it rebuilds them into someone wiser, calmer, and emotionally stronger. The pain opens their eyes. It teaches them that love should never cost their self-respect. It teaches them that being alone is far better than feeling emotionally lonely beside someone who no longer values them. And maybe the hardest truth of all is this: some people only love the comfort you give them, not the heart you carry. They enjoy your attention, your loyalty, your emotional support, but they never truly choose you the way you choose them. That realization hurts deeply, but it also sets a person free, because the moment someone understands their own worth, They stop chasing love that constantly makes them suffer. They stop begging for effort. They stop shrinking themselves just to fit into someone else's temporary feelings. And one day, they finally understand that real love is not found in painful confusion, it is found in peace, honesty, consistency, and the kind of care that never makes you question whether you are truly valued or not. A heart that loves deeply deserves a love that feels the same, because the saddest thing in life is not loving someone, and losing them. The saddest thing is losing yourself, while trying to keep someone who was never afraid of losing you. Some heartbreaks do not just hurt a person for a few days. They completely change who that person becomes afterward. A painful relationship has the power to change the way Mione thinks, trusts, loves, and even sees themselves. Before heartbreak, many people love innocently. They believe effort will always be appreciated, loyalty will always matter, and honesty will naturally be returned with honesty. But after experiencing emotional pain deeply, something inside them shifts forever. There was a man who once believed love could survive anything, as long as two people truly cared about each other. He was the type of person who gave his whole heart without fear. He trusted easily, stayed loyal during difficult times, and always tried to fix problems instead of walking away. When he met the woman he loved, he thought he had finally found someone who understood him emotionally. She made him feel seen in ways nobody else ever had. In the beginning, their connection felt rare. They spent hours talking about dreams, future plans, and the kind of life they wanted together. He slowly became emotionally attached to her presence. Her voice became part of his daily peace. Her messages became the highlight of his day. Like many people deeply in love, he started building his future around someone he trusted completely. And that is why heartbreak hurts so much. It is not just losing a person. It is losing the future you imagined with them. At first, the changes were small. She became emotionally distant sometimes. Certain conversations felt colder than before. He noticed things, but he ignored them because he believed every relationship goes through difficult phases. He kept giving more effort, hoping things would return to normal. But eventually, the distance between them grew larger than the love holding them together. Arguments became more frequent. Communication became painful. He started feeling emotionally lonely, even while being in the relationship. Some nights he stayed awake wondering why the same person who once made him feel special now made him feel emotionally exhausted. But because he loved her deeply, he kept fighting for the relationship long after it had already started breaking him inside. That is the painful reality of emotional attachment. Sometimes people continue holding on even when their heart is quietly falling apart every single day. Then came the moment that shattered him completely. One simple conversation ended years of emotional investment. No dramatic scene, no loud ending. Just a cold truth he was never ready to hear. She no longer felt the same way. Those words destroyed something inside him. After the breakup, life around him continued normally, but his inner world completely collapsed. He stopped enjoying things he once loved. Music sounded different. Nights felt heavier. Even simple memories became painful. Every place reminded him of her. Every silence became loud. People often underestimate how deeply heartbreak affects someone emotionally. A broken heart changes sleeping habits, eating habits, confidence, mental peace, and even the ability to trust others again. It leaves invisible scars that nobody else can fully see. For months, he blamed himself for everything. He replayed old conversations in his mind, wondering what he could have done differently. Maybe he loved too much. Maybe he cared too deeply. Maybe he was not enough. That is what heartbreak does to many people. It makes them question their own worth, instead of questioning the behavior of the person who hurt them. Slowly, he became quieter. The cheerful version of him disappeared. Friends noticed he smiled less. He stopped opening up emotionally, because the person he trusted most had become the source of his deepest pain. The heartbreak did not just end a relationship, it changed the way he viewed love itself. But pain has a strange way of teaching lessons that comfort never teaches. One night, after months of emotional suffering, he realized something important. He had spent so much time mourning the loss of the relationship that he forgot he was still alive. He forgot he still deserved peace, happiness, and a future beyond heartbreak. That realization became the beginning of his healing. It was not easy. Healing never happens in a straight line. Some days he felt strong, while other days memories hit him unexpectedly. There were nights he missed her badly. There were moments he almost contacted her again just to feel connected one more time. Emotional attachment does not disappear simply because a relationship ends. But slowly, he started rebuilding himself. He returned to old hobbies. He spent more time with family. He focused on improving his life instead of constantly reliving the pain. Most importantly, he started learning who he was outside the relationship. And little by little, the heartbreak that once destroyed him started transforming him. He became emotionally wiser. He learned to recognize unhealthy patterns earlier. He understood that love should not require someone to constantly sacrifice their mental peace. He realized that true love is not just about emotional intensity, it is also about consistency, effort, respect, and emotional safety. The heartbreak changed him deeply, but it also made him stronger in ways he never expected. Before the pain, he gave his heart without boundaries. After the pain, he learned the importance of protecting his energy. Before heartbreak, he ignored red flags because of love. After heartbreak, he understood that real love and self-respect must exist together. And maybe the saddest part of heartbreak is that even after healing, a person is never exactly the same again. Some innocence disappears forever. Some trust becomes harder to give. A person who once loved fearlessly may become more careful with their emotions. But that does not mean they are broken. Sometimes heartbreak does not ruin a person, it rebuilds them into someone more aware of their value, their boundaries, and the kind of love they truly deserve. Because eventually, every broken heart reaches a moment where the pain stops controlling them, and they finally understand that losing someone who failed to protect their heart was never the end of their story. It was the beginning of becoming someone stronger than the pain that once almost destroyed them. There comes a point in some relationships where a person slowly stops feeling loved and starts feeling like they are begging just to be noticed. It does not happen all at once. It happens quietly, little by little, until someone who once felt confident and full of life begins questioning their own worth every single day. They start waiting for replies that never come with the same energy anymore. They overthink small changes in tone. They become emotionally dependent on tiny moments of attention because deep down, they are terrified of losing the person they love. And that is where many people lose themselves. There was a woman who loved someone with complete honesty. She was the kind of person who cared deeply, remembered small details, and always put effort into the relationship. If he was upset, she would stay awake all night talking to him. If he needed support, she was always there without hesitation. She believed that genuine love meant standing beside someone through every difficult moment. At first, the relationship felt beautiful. He gave her attention, made her feel important, and spoke about a future together. She trusted him fully, because when someone makes a lonely heart feel special, emotional attachment grows very quickly. But with time, things started changing. His efforts slowly disappeared. The long conversations became short replies. The affection became inconsistent. Some days he acted loving, while other days he became distant without explanation. She noticed the changes, but instead of confronting reality, she blamed herself. Maybe she was asking for too much. Maybe she was too emotional. Maybe if she loved harder, cared more, or stayed more patient, things would improve. That is the dangerous part of emotional attachment. It convinces people to work harder for love that is slowly disappearing. The woman started sacrificing pieces of herself just to keep the relationship alive. She ignored her own feelings to avoid arguments. She accepted behavior that secretly hurt her because she feared losing him. Every time he became cold, she tried becoming warmer. Every time he pulled away emotionally, she chased him harder. Without realizing it, she turned love into survival. The saddest part was that nobody around her fully understood what she was going through. On the outside, she still smiled. She still acted normal. But privately, she cried almost every night, wondering why the person she loved so deeply made her feel so emotionally unwanted. One evening, after hours of waiting for a simple message, she looked at her phone and realized something painful. She had spent the entire day emotionally exhausted over someone who barely spent a few minutes thinking about her. That realization hit her deeply. Love had slowly turned into begging. Begging for attention, begging for consistency, begging for reassurance, begging to feel important in someone's life. And the truth is, real love should never make someone feel that small. Still, she stayed because emotional attachment can make people tolerate pain they never imagined accepting before. When someone becomes emotionally connected to another person, they fear the emptiness that might come after leaving. Even painful love can feel safer than loneliness. Weeks passed, and the relationship continued draining her emotionally. The more she gave, the more invisible she felt. One day during an argument, he finally said something that completely broke her heart. He told her, "You're too much sometimes." Those words stayed inside her mind for days. Too much for caring deeply, too much for wanting effort, too much for asking to feel valued. For the first time, she stopped crying and became quiet. Not because the pain disappeared, but because something inside her finally became tired. Tired of explaining her worth to someone who only appreciated her when it was convenient. Tired of shrinking herself emotionally just to keep someone comfortable. That night, she sat alone thinking about the person she used to be before the relationship. She remembered how confident she once felt, how freely she laughed, how peaceful her mind used to be. Then she looked at who she had become: anxious, emotionally drained, constantly overthinking whether she was enough for someone who rarely made her feel chosen. And in that moment, she realized something powerful. A person should never have to beg for the bare minimum in love. Love should not feel like a competition for attention. It should not leave someone constantly confused about where they stand. Real love gives peace, not emotional starvation. Walking away was one of the hardest things she ever did. Even after deciding to leave, her heart still missed him. Emotional attachment. NT does not disappear immediately. There were nights she wanted to call him, moments she almost returned, days she doubted her decision. But slowly, distance started healing the parts of her that constant disappointment had destroyed. She started focusing on herself again. She spent more time with people who genuinely valued her presence. She stopped checking her phone every few minutes, hoping for love from someone who gave affection only when it suited them. Little by little, she began reconnecting with herself, and for the first time in a long time, she felt peace. Not because the heartbreak disappeared completely, but because she no longer abandoned herself just to keep another person in her life. That experience changed the way she understood love forever. She realized that self-worth is not about being chosen by someone else. Self-worth is knowing when to walk away from situations that continuously damage your emotional health. Many people stay in painful relationships because if they think losing someone means losing love itself. But sometimes losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding peace within yourself. The woman eventually understood that real love never demands someone to sacrifice their dignity just to feel important. Genuine love does not make a person feel emotionally replaceable. It does not punish honesty, effort, or deep care. And maybe the most important lesson heartbreak taught her was this: the moment you stop begging for love and start recognizing your own value, you finally become free from relationships that survive only because you kept lowering yourself to keep them alive. Because no matter how deeply you love someone, you should never have to convince another human being to treat your heart like it matters. After experiencing heartbreak, toxic attachment, and emotional confusion, many people eventually reach a stage where they stop asking, "How do I keep this person?" and start asking a much deeper question. What is real love actually feel like? That question changes everything, because painful relationships often teach people what love is not before they finally understand what genuine love truly is. There was a man who spent years believing love had to be intense, to be real. He thought jealousy meant care. He thought emotional chasing meant passion. He believed that constantly worrying about losing someone was proof of deep attachment. Every relationship he experienced left him emotionally exhausted, but he kept confusing emotional chaos with love because pain had become familiar to him. Then he met someone different. At first, the connection felt strange to him because there were no emotional games, no mixed signals, no silent punishments after small disagreements. She spoke honestly. She communicated clearly. When she cared, she showed it naturally without making him beg for reassurance. And strangely, that peaceful kind of love almost scared him. People who have experienced toxic relationships often become used to emotional instability. Their hearts become trained to expect confusion, inconsistency, and emotional ups and downs. So when something healthy finally enters their life, it can feel unfamiliar at first. The man noticed little things about her that slowly started healing parts of him he never realized were broken. If he had a difficult day, she listened without making him feel weak. If something bothered her, she talked about it calmly instead of turning everything into emotional warfare. He did not have to constantly guess where he stood in her life, because her actions consistently matched her words. For the first time in years, he felt emotionally safe. That feeling changed him deeply. In his past relationships, he spent nights overthinking simple messages, wondering if he was loved enough. He constantly feared abandonment. He adjusted himself emotionally just to avoid conflict. But with her, his mind became quieter. He no longer felt like he was thing for basic affection. And that is when he finally understood something powerful. Real love does not constantly make a person anxious. Many people stay trapped in painful relationships because they confuse emotional intensity with emotional depth. They believe love must hurt to be meaningful, but true love is not built on fear, emotional manipulation, or constant uncertainty. Genuine love creates peace, not emotional exhaustion. One evening, while sitting together during a quiet conversation, he realized how different this relationship felt from everything before. There was no pressure to pretend, no fear of saying the wrong thing, no emotional distance, forcing him to beg for connection. Could simply exist as himself, without constantly worrying about losing the person beside him. That kind of love heals people slowly. For the first time, he understood that healthy love is often quiet. It is found in consistency, honesty, patience, and emotional presence. It is found in remembering the little things that matter to you. It is found in calm conversations after misunderstandings instead of cruel silence. It is found in effort that feels natural rather than forced. The more time passed, the more he started reflecting on his old relationships. He realized how many painful things he once accepted in the name of love. He remembered nights of emotional stress, constant overthinking, and the loneliness of feeling unwanted beside someone he deeply cared about. And suddenly, everything became clear. That was never love. That was attachment mixed with fear. Real love never makes someone feel emotionally disposable. It does not leave a person questioning their worth every day. It does not punish vulnerability or make honesty feel dangerous. The man slowly started healing because he was finally experiencing a relationship where love did not need to be earned through suffering. One day, during a difficult moment in his life, he apologized to her for being emotionally distant. He expected frustration because that was what he had experienced before, but instead, she simply held his hand and said, "You don't always have to carry everything alone." Those words affected him more deeply than she realized. Sometimes people who have been hurt repeatedly become so used to surviving emotionally by themselves that simple kindness feels overwhelming. They become shocked by patience because they spent years experiencing emotional instability instead of emotional support. That moment made him realize how much heartbreak had changed him. The old version of him believed love was about proving loyalty through pain. But now he understood that real love is not about surviving emotional damage together. It is about helping each other feel safe enough to grow. And slowly, he started becoming a healthier version of himself too. Healthy love changed the way he communicated. It changed the way he handled conflict. It taught him that vulnerability is not weakness when shared with the right person. Instead of becoming emotionally reactive, he learned to express himself calmly. Instead of fearing abandonment constantly, he learned trust through consistency. That is the beautiful thing about real love. It does not only change relationships, it changes people. But perhaps the most important lesson he learned was this. True love begins where emotional games end. Many people search for love while carrying wounds from old heartbreaks. Some become cold. Some stop trusting completely. Others stay trapped in toxic attachment because they fear starting over. But eventually, life teaches them that love should feel like emotional peace, not emotional survival, because at the end of the day, real love is not the loudest relationship, the most dramatic connection, or the one filled with endless chasing. Real love is the relationship where two people protect each other's peace, speak honestly, even during difficult moments, stay loyal when life becomes hard, and make each other feel emotionally safe enough to be fully themselves. And after all the heartbreak, confusion, and painful attachment, the greatest feeling in the world is finally meeting someone whose love no longer feels like a battle your heart has to survive.